In previous video we created a purchase order, so now we will continue from there. We completed all this following steps that are mentioned over here. Now next step would be to create a purchase invoice. Now purchase invoice can be created by a supplier, basically in a draft state, or an account user can create a purchase invoice and can also submit the purchase invoice. Now since invoice is something that comes under the accounting section, only accounts user and accounts manager will have an access to it. So for now, let's use a supplier's login and create a purchase invoice in the draft state. So over here, we submitted purchase order. So supplier will receive it over here, and what supplier can do is you can just click on this actions and click on make purchase invoice. So once this is done, the purchase invoice over here, you'll see that we are right now in the purchase invoice section in the sidebar over here, and we can see this particular purchase invoice that was created just now. So we can also see this particular purchase invoice in the desk. Now this invoice will be visible to a user with the accounts user role or accounts manager role. So let's go into the accounts user login, and over here let's take a look at this particular purchase invoice. So this is the purchase invoice that is in the draft state. So we need to submit the particular purchase invoice in order to complete the payment further and create a payment entry for this particular purchase that we are doing from the supplier. So let's click on submit and also make sure that the taxes and everything is applied correctly. Alright, so this particular purchase invoice is now created. Now next step would be to create a payment entry. Payment entry is where we will include the payment details and everything. So let's click on payment over here. Payment is basically payment entry, and let's consider that we are doing the mode of payment as cash. Cash. And let's click on save. So here if you see, we have payment from supplier and we have the name of the supplier, and we also have the reference for which this particular payment is related to. So here it is related to this particular purchase invoice. So that's that. Let's save it and let's submit it. Alright, so we have created a payment entry over here. Now let's take a look at the purchase invoice status. It should now change to paid. I'll refresh it. Alright, so now we have made a payment to a supplier for the particular items that we are getting delivered from a supplier. Alright, so we completed this step, and then we also completed this particular step, that is creating a payment entry for supplier. Now next step is to create a purchase receipt. Now purchase receipt is where we will include all the details about the items that we are receiving from the supplier. So purchase receipt will be created by a purchase user. So let's go to the purchase user's login over here. So this is the purchase order. Now let me refresh this particular purchase order, and we can see that the status will change. Now since we have paid for this, it will only show to receive. Alright, now next step would be to create a purchase receipt over here. I'll click on create purchase receipt, and we have the warehouse where all these particular items will be incoming, and we have this taxes applied. Let's click on save and let's click on submit. So now as soon as the purchase receipt is submitted, we have a stock ledger entry that is created. So that particular entry is visible to a person who have the role of stock user or stock manager, so they'll be able to see the stock ledger. So like if I click on the stock ledger over here, I won't be able to see it, but I'll show it to you from the another user's login. So over here, if you see, we have this 2 stock entry that are right now, like if you see, it is showing now. So these 2 stock entries are created, basically the 2 quantities of adapter and 2 quantities of Apple iPhone have been received in this particular warehouse, that is finished goods. Now after receiving the item in a stock, now we will create a quotation for the opportunity, and then we will begin the selling process. So these are all the steps that we will cover now so far. So let's begin with the first one, that is creating a quotation for an opportunity. Now quotation will include all the details about the item and the price at which we will sell it to the customer. So let's go ahead and create it. Now quotation will be created by a sales user or a sales manager. So let's go ahead. Now over here, if you see, we have opportunity over here, and I'll go ahead and create quotation. Now this quotation will automatically include all the items which was present in the opportunity, and also the taxes will be applied automatically. Now since the customer is from Bangalore and the company is also from Bangalore, the in-state tax rule will be applied. And this one over here, if you see the rate, it is the selling price of the item that I have added. So let's click on save and let's submit it. Now whenever a quotation will be submitted, you can create a custom notification where a customer will be notified about the quotation. So for example, over here, let me show you the custom notification that I have created for quotation. So this is the custom notification, that is whenever the quotation will be submitted, the customer will receive the details about the quotation along with the print over here. So I'll show you the example right now. Over here is the example of the quotation notification. So if you see, we have this print format quotation, and this is the email that I have created. So now after the quotation will be created, next step will be to create a sales order. That is, let's say customer agreed for the quotation, he wants to buy the particular items from you at the rate that you have mentioned to him. So next step will be to create a sales order. Let's go ahead and create a sales order. Now sales order can be created directly from the quotation over here. If you see, we have this, and we can also use this option over here and click on create sales order. So let's go ahead and click on sales order. Now in sales order, you need to mention the delivery date. Let's consider that we are going to deliver it today. And source warehouse is from where the items will be stocked. Like we created a stock ledger entry. The stock ledger entry was automatically created, so that one will be added over here. So here, if you see, the taxes and everything is applied correctly. Now let's click on save and submit. Now once the sales order is created and submitted, the next step will be to create a sales invoice. Now sales invoice can only be created by someone with the role of accounts user or accounts manager. Now sales invoice comes under accounting section, so there will be a different user who will be dealing with all the with creating a sales invoice and all of that. So let's go ahead. So what I'll do right now is I'll log in with the user with the role of accounts user. So right now I'm in the accounts user's login. Let's go to the selling section. Now here, accounts user have a permission to read the sales order, so we will create sales invoice directly from the sales order. So over here, if you see, we have this one, to deliver and bill, to deliver and bill. So all of this, for all of this particular orders, we need to create a sales invoice. So let's click on this one, and I'll click on create a sales invoice. And for sales invoice, all the details will be coming from the sales order only, so we don't need to edit anything here specifically. And let's click on save and submit. Now similar to quotation, if you want, you can also create a sales invoice notification. That is, whenever the sales invoice will be submitted, this particular sales invoice PDF will be sent to a customer. For the sales invoice also, the notification is created. As soon as the sales invoice is submitted, customer will be receiving this type of an email. Now we can customize it more as per the requirement. After creating a sales invoice, next step is to create a payment request. Now in payment request, an email will be sent to a customer with the payment link. So let's go ahead and create a payment request. Now payment request can be created by accounts user, and only an accounts manager will be able to submit it, basically approve a payment request. So for now I'll use the accounts users login. So over here I'll create a payment request. Now if you scroll down, we have this message, like once I click on save and once account manager will submit it, this message will be sent automatically. So whatever you mention over here will be sent. Now here they have given this message example, so let's take that and add it. Now in this payment URL, I have added a payment gateway account, that is I have added Razorpay integration. So customer will be getting a payment URL, that is a Razorpay payment link. Now we'll see this once I click on save and submit it. So let's go to the accounts manager's login and submit it from there. Alright, now once it is submitted, this particular customer will be getting an email. Now I'll show you an example of how the email will look. Now this is how the email will be looking. Like if you see, please click on the link below to make your payment. And we added dear, this is the person name, that is Jessica. So here it is. This is the example that I'm using to show. Now if I click on this link over here, this is a test link. So here I can make a payment and it will be done, like the payment will be done by a customer. So that's how the payment request will work. Now let me refresh this. Alright, so now once a customer makes a payment, we will create a payment entry over here. Now let me go back to the sales invoice and I'll create a payment. Payment, basically I'm creating a transaction. Now one thing to notice, payment request step is optional. You can directly create from sales invoice to payment depending if the customer have paid to you. So let's consider that the mode of payment is cash, since that was a test link, that's why. And click on save and click on submit. So now once the payment entry is done, that is we have received the payment from this particular customer, we'll go and check the sales invoice status over here. So it is showing paid. Also let's take a look at the sales orders status. So over here, this one is showing that it is to deliver. It has been, like, payment is done. Now once the payment is done by a customer, next step is to create a delivery note. Now delivery note can be created by a stock user or a stock manager, and it will include all the details about the item that is being shipped to a customer. Now once the delivery note is created and submitted, a stock ledger entry will also be created, which we will see in some time. So let's go ahead and create a delivery note. I'll use the user with the role of stock user. I'll use that particular login and I'll click on this sales order that we have been dealing with, and let's click on create delivery note. And here we have all the details already fetched from the sales order, so we don't need to add anything extra. Let's click on save and let's click on submit. Alright, so over here we need to make sure that the warehouse is correct. Now if you remember, when we created a purchase receipt, we added finished goods as the warehouse, and over here let's check what is the warehouse. It's stores. So we need to change it to finished goods, and this one also let's change it to finished goods. Because that's where we received our purchase order. And let's click on save and let's click on submit. Now as soon as we submitted it, we should be able to see a stock entry. I'll click on this one over here, stock ledger. Let's take a look. So here if you see, there is the out quantity -2, and here if you see, the warehouse is mentioned, that is finished goods and finished goods. So that was the entire selling and buying section. So we created a lead, and then we also created opportunity and then we created purchase order, and then we created quotation for lead once we got the item in the stock, and then we also created a delivery note. Basically, we completed the entire sales cycle. I hope you understood. If you have any doubt, do ask them, and thank you so much for watching.